Yep, and we're back. And so thank you all for joining us as we continue our adventure today on the week 5 of 8 of the Select Chicago conference. And we're going to begin next about learning about incentives. So as different companies are coming from abroad, or even companies within the greater Chicago region are looking to expand, they always begin by asking about incentives. So I have reached out and got to know Jen Kraus-Keely, right?
Yes, you got
Thank
it.
you, from EnJen Connects, who's put together a great program to help simplify that process. So I'm going to turn this over to Jen, and she's going to walk you through some slides and talk about her program. And there you are.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Select Chicago. So I don't know about anybody else, but it's lunchtime where I'm at and where we are filming today. So I thank everybody for being part of Select Chicago. This has been a remarkable journey. I can't believe we're already into week 5. Very exciting. A ton of valuable information is being out there. So I continue to keep encouraging to look at all of the sessions and join them, because when I look at this, and especially for what I'm talking about today and going into incentives, is the fact that we are going to break some perceptions of what this is. And I call all of my clients, when I work with my clients, Future 100 companies, because anybody that's out there and getting into these types of conferences and learning what's available to them is already taking huge steps as far as to being able to secure their growth and scale their companies. So again, I'm looking forward to this journey with you today. We're going to have a little bit of fun. I think a little bit later I'm going to have you climb a mountain with me. So just be prepared. But to start on that, we're going to go into what incentives, what do state incentive packages look like? So today, as an overview, just to kind of get you prepared, we're going to be talking, I'll introduce you to the state's big 3. So as Michael kind of preambled for us, is that when you're actually looking at growing your company, companies of all sizes should be curious about what type of state support and benefits and resources are available to them. So we're going to talk about the big 3, and we're going to talk about them in a way that you might not even have ever thought about them before. Because I like to say that when you're looking at incentives, they really are. They're kind of the shiny objects that's really get you to focus and pay attention and give you tools to start the growth of your business. But there's going to be a lot of hidden things that are beneath that. So we're going to go over what those big 3 are, the big resources that you look at a state level for. And then we're going to go into kind of the program overviews. And then at the end, we're going to go on that journey that I told you about. And we're going to talk about leveraging the actual incentives. So if we can go to the next slide. I'll introduce myself a little bit more. I am Jennifer Kraus-Keely. I've been in business development for over 20 years. I have a focus on growth and expansion, specifically more for small to mid-market companies. And when I'm talking small to mid-market companies, I'm talking companies that are, anywhere from 1 employee all the way up to 500. I was actually shocked to learn that the U.S. Small Business Administration actually calls all small companies 500 employees or less. That's incredible to me, considering that over 40, I just looked this up, 45% of companies that are here located in the U.S. actually are smaller than 10 people in size. So from 1 to 9 people is 45% of the businesses. And then you're going to move up to companies that are between 10 to 150, and it's like 15%. Anything above 150 is less than 1% of the businesses. So I concentrate on those businesses, and believe it or not, those types of businesses can get incentives. They can actually help get support and tons of resources for it. So we're going to go over and have some case studies. So my business, EnJen Connects, is actually the first online platform where business owners can connect directly with economic development partners. I know we have a lot of you on our channels today watching and streaming because you have so many resources. I call you my hidden powerhouses, but you are out there and we're giving you the ability to have learn about visions for growth directly from business owners and connect to them directly online. So that's really exciting. So into this, the big three. What we're going to talk about, and we can actually go ahead and go to the next slide. I think it actually says it in better detail. When you're looking at state incentives, the first thing that typically come to mind are tax credits. Hiring tax credits. It's in the news. It's all over the place. When you hear about the big headline news companies, the Amazons, the Boeings, the Foxcons of the world, they come in and they're talking about bringing jobs and capital investment, and economic development agencies across the region are bending over backwards with tax incentive programs. It's all over headline news. It's a lot of controversy because we don't exactly know where that goes. But I'm going to tell you that all companies should be looking at tax incentive packages for job creation. We're also going to talk about today workforce development. It's a hot topic. I know it's been brought up many, many times over during the Select Chicago conferences, and it's going to continue to be brought up. We have new circumstances with the pandemic, which are giving us new remote locations to work for. I think earlier I heard the term was not even remote workforce. It was like close to home or close to work, close proximity to work, which I think is a fantastic term. But we're going to talk about that because there's a lot of resources when you're thinking of incentive packages for any size company that you should be looking at this. And then the last one, which is a large one, and it has ridiculous amount of hidden powers. If our economic development partners could actually wear a jacket and break it open to be a superhero, it comes within location decisions. I was watching a earlier session today about site selection, and the new tools that are budding up are just astronomical. I mean, we're in an age of opportunity, and growth and expansion is going to come very quickly out of this. So let's jump in and kind of dig down into here. We have the first one, state incentives, tax credits. Job creation is really the heart of economic development. Everybody wants to get jobs. They want to promote jobs. So states at a state level put together attraction and retention policies to bring jobs in. They want to attract. And this I've seen from all levels. Different states have different programs, but from all levels, companies should be looking at this first. If you're even considering expansion or scaling your business, so you're looking to come into the U.S., or if you're a small to mid-market company and you really want to find out what's available to you, you need to do this first. And there's hidden powers in it. So as you're kind of going along and you really want to see what's available, I'm going to tell you, here's the qualifiers. If you are whatever size company you are and you are looking to increase your employees by 5% over the next 2 years, you want to be looking at job creation tax credits. If you are looking at making a location decision, doing training, putting investment in, you want to be telling your story to economic development professionals in a variety of different states to see what they have available to you. Tell them your story. Tell them your biggest, grandest vision, because it's with their resources and support that's going to propel you. It's going to make you that future 100 company. So looking into them, don't come into this with an attitude of working with the government is difficult, because I'm telling you, our economic development professionals at state and municipal levels, they really are powerhouses. I call them that all the time, and I hope to prove that a little bit to you today because of the fact I'm going to give you some case studies. I've had tons of fun over the years of working with companies and seeing the power of what happens when a company comes and tells their story and they look into state incentive packages. So when we're getting into tax credits, I'm going to put it flat out. Not all companies are going to get tax credits, but they should be looking to see if they qualify anyways. And there's that hidden power that I keep talking about. And in that hidden power is the minute that you tell your story to a state, they jump on board. They're going to assign you. You're going to come in with that RFI. They're going to give you a representative that is going to have a team of connections underneath that's going to figure out what's available for where your company's at, and they're going to make connections for that. And if you are qualified, and let me tell you, I had a chemical packaging company. They had 3 full-time employees. They had 5 1099 employees that they wanted to bring on. They're going to double the size of their company, so they were actually going up to probably about 20 employees. They qualified for over $400,000 in state tax incentives for job creation. $400,000 for that size of a company? I mean, that's just astronomical. The interesting thing is they ended up not taking it. They actually got so much more benefit from the other ancillary things I'm going to tell you about that it overcompensated it for everything that they needed, so they chose not to do it, and they ended up getting a lot of benefits for R&D credits that they didn't know that they had, that their state partner, economic development partner, introduced them to. They had help with their permitting. They had help with their building and construction. They ended up getting training grants. So they actually chose not to take the state corporate income tax. But I'm going to say, look at it anyways, and they were glad that they did, because once they were on that roadmap and they started this journey, the state incentive package became so much more ludicrous. So the first of the big three is tax credits and job hiring tax credits, and what I want you to take away from this is you want to start with that. It's imperative, because if you do make location decisions or you start hiring people before they have been completely approved, you're not going to be eligible for it, or you're going to miss some of those potential benefits that you had. Every state's different. Most of them are, just as the basics, state tax credits are for an offset of state corporate income taxes. Some companies say to me, hey, you know what, I don't think I even have that much liability. Well, you don't now, maybe not now, but eventually you might want to take retained earnings out of your company, or you might bring on some venture capital partners that might want to take the pass-through benefits. So look at state tax credits first. Did we got that? Everybody, state tax credits first. Okay, the next one is workforce development. So once you've told your story to a state partner when you're starting your exploration of growth, you're going to start with the state tax credits, but from there, the next thing I want you to do is ask them about getting connected with their workforce development resources and support team. The federal government has, in the U.S., given every year grants to the state, which is typically handled at a county or municipal level, but they have grants that help with the hiring, recruiting, training, and upskilling, setting up apprenticeships. There's all types of workforce resources and support that are available. And within that, like I said, I had that chemical packaging company that ended up finding so much money within these resources and within their hiring. They actually had free job fairs that their local county workforce set up for them. They did all of the actual interviewing for them, the pre-interviewing, so qualified candidates came to them. So they were focused on their day-to-day operations and the scaling of their company, and the actual workforce development team put together interviews for them. Once they got them in, they ended up hiring, I think within the first 6 months, they hired 6 new people. All of them, this was probably 2 years ago, all of them are still there and thriving. Every one of them ended up being qualified for some type of a grant for training. So we had upskill of training, we had offset of wages, so we had a couple of them that actually received benefits. So this is the gift that keeps on giving. You'll see on my slide that when you get into training grants, it's a year-over-year benefit, and once you set them up, the applications are fairly easy. Typically working with your workforce development team, they will actually help you with the language of the application. So if you already have a training program put together, then, but we just need to tweak it a little bit, these powerhouses will come in and make sure that your applications get approved. The only thing that you really need to think about is to talk again very quickly about this, because depending on the year-to-year benefit, the money's run out. Typically, as they start to use these grants, they can run out, and you have to wait again until the application period for the next year. So this is, again, in an estate incentive package, it is more than just the job creation tax credit. It's more than being this large company. It's about really putting together a package that's going to be fit to your company, to your growth vision. So the bigger that you can have a vision for growth and the more that you can tell them, the more benefits that they're going to find for you. We ended up having I had a lighting company. They were absolutely a fantastic company, had about 35 employees. They were thinking they were going up to about 70. And going through the workforce training program, we actually found out that we could get a grant. They needed to buy oh my goodness, I'm already forgetting what the name of it is. It's a system like roadmap that they were going to spend $250,000 in for their process development. We found a grant that actually paid for the whole thing. They saved $250,000. So when you're thinking of a state incentive package, that typically does not come up. Those ancillary benefits, you're not thinking about it. But the reason you want to visit this is because the people that you're meeting and that you're connecting with in the economic development profession, they want to help you grow. They're going to be your team. They're going to be your guide. So when I told you earlier we're going to climb a mountain a little bit. You don't climb Mount Everest for the first time and not have a guide. You want to put a team together. You have a period of time that you're going to be on this journey of growing and expanding, and hopefully many times you're going to go through growth and expansion. But when you're on it for the first time, you need to have those guides. The resources you're finding here at Select Chicago, reach out and use them. I mean, this is literally the information that they're giving to you is ridiculously valuable. So, it's not even about us. I'm sitting in a room of professionals, which feels very good to be here and to, be with them today so that we can, and they obviously had trained their professionals. They had to be recruited. And, you really want to use these resources to find people like them. So that is the second of the big three that we're going to talk about. Let's move on to my favorite. This is the site selection roadmap. I know there's all kinds of tools out there and there's real estate brokers, but when you're talking state incentive packages, we have a really interesting occurrence that happens. You've got real estate brokers, you've got real estate professionals, you have your in-house team, you're already thinking maybe about the property next door or leasing the property next door. But when you talk to the state about your incentives and you tell them your story, how many you want to hire, who you're going to train, what type of capital investments you're going to do, they come in and complimentary are going to make your resources for site selection just explode. So in that, they've got connections and roadmaps. And I listened earlier in on a site selection one, and there was this fantastic technology. I think it was Blackbird. It was really impressive. I mean, very online data. You could see real time, different units for real estate. You could model out certain demographics, and that is absolutely great. But I'm going to tell you what, working with an economic development professional, and you get those connections, and you get hand-me-down, walk in, roll out the red carpet to help you find locations, you'll be amazed at what comes up. I worked with a packaging company, actually here local within this area. They had over 1,300 employees, but they were adding a small subsidiary business where it was going to be based around logistics. So they needed to do, for their distribution, they wanted a truck repair center, and they were going to be adding distribution trucks in it. They had worked for site selection for over 2 years trying to get approvals for a building that they could build and add to different municipalities that were going to actually help them with their distribution. And 2 years in, they had all kinds of problems because of the fact that when you are trucking, they obviously have noise, or there's going to be concerns of infrastructure, the use of the roads. And so they had gone back and forth. They were dealing with it the traditional routes and getting nowhere. Time and money, and it was just the resources. So they came to me. We actually explored a state incentive package. So we actually introduced them to the state level, completely told them their story and their vision for growth. Within 2 weeks, the states called up 3 different municipalities, talked to the economic development partners, the mayors of the towns, and counties. And we had 4 listings that they could choose from that were pre-approved to house their new facility. So within 2 weeks, they did a 2-year adventure with, proposals and trying to get in. And they ended up finding a piece of property that actually, believe it or not, it was actually the city of Waukegan, where I'm located and shooting from today, offered them a site that the city owned at below market value. They expedited permits, special use permits were run concurrent so that they could get in, and they helped with all of the different infrastructure improvements. So this is what I'm talking about in site selection. And when you're looking at state incentive packages, whatever size company you are, you need to be looking at state incentives. And it's not just for those tax credits. You should be looking at them. They are the gift that keeps on giving. They are a long-term roadmap for helping with cash flow and freeing up resources so that you can make better capital expenditure decisions. But ultimately, you really want to gain these big three. You want to, look at those resources of workforce development grants, that retention and attraction. You also want to be able to get in and get their site selection because their connections, I heard it. All of the municipalities right now are waiting to say, hey, how can we help you? We know these are changing times. How can we help you? But why not be able to take your resources for real estate and site selection and up them a level? So those are the big three that I wanted you to be thinking of. We're going to go from there and just do a little recap. I believe it's just talking about the fact that these are hidden powers. It's kind of just revealing what is absolutely available to you out there. And I'm hoping that we're breaking the state incentive package personification of what we thought it would be. So let's do that a little bit more with another case study. We had a aerospace company, a small reseller of landing gear for airports. So they actually refurbished landing gear and came to me. They had 8 employees. They brought in and they decided to look at a state incentive package. So with this, they actually received, for hiring up to 55 employees, a $700,000 job creation tax credit plan. They had hand-holding in negotiating a lease, finding that lease. They also ended up getting training grants, which they now have over, I believe they've already hired, this is about a year and a half ago, I believe they've hired over 25 people already, and the team is just beaming. When you walk into this place, it is filled with energy, absolute energy. So it's like they had said to me, and I actually have this as an interview on my YouTube channel. The owner gave me, his name was Jim Bocarosa. He gave an absolute wonderful interview talking about the process of this, and he had said, he goes, I honestly didn't know that this stuff was available to me, and I didn't realize the power behind working with an economic development professionals across the region. So looking into the state incentive package, it's really more than what you think it is. And if you're really about to grow, you want to take advantage of these things. I have tons of more case studies on our website, and I think I even have a download that I can kind of link to you guys if you want to find out more information about this. It's a fantastic resource in how to think differently about state incentive packages and not just think of them as dealing with the government or that this is red tape. That's totally, I am like ridiculously passionate about it because honestly, our government partners, they literally are powerhouses. Oh, yeah, this other one, this aerospace company, also we ended up finding them. It was small, but it was like a $5,000 energy rebate for doing the improvements on their new leasehold improvement. I mean, that's money in your pocket, right? I mean, so they ended up choosing to get a larger space with all of the money that they freed up, getting the training grants, the energy credits, the tax credits, those savings that they knew they would have, they actually increased their space and started hiring even faster. So I really believe that when you look into state incentive packages, you're going to find that you're going to, I find it again and again, and I know my colleagues do the same, that when they are looking at state incentive packages, typically a company will come and say, hey, I have this vision for growth, but all of a sudden it expands. It literally just kind of blows out of the water, and you'll find very often that maybe instead of leasing the space, you're going to be buying or building that space. So it really is an enhancement. So that was literally one of my favorite companies. All of them are my favorite, but they are really something that you need to be looking at. So I hope that you're getting that picture. Okay, so let's move on and let's talk about that journey I told you about. we revealed the power. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, because now we're going to talk about how to leverage them. Yeah. Yes. So this is where I said in the front, this is lunchtime. We've gone to a couple sessions. We're at midday here. It is time to climb a mountain. We are literally going to put ourselves in the shoes of somebody that's ridiculously excited to climb Mount Everest. I don't know about you, but I don't know that I would ever do this. But I'm going to anticipate that somebody that is getting in the shoes of climbing a mountain is going to go into it with the thought that, you know what, there's going to be bumps, there's going to be challenge, there's going to be a time period that I am going to have to deal with things that I don't normally deal with. But oh my gosh, when I reach the summit and I actually put that flag in the ground, it is going to feel amazing. Well, that is the journey of your expansion. You have a company that is focused on your product, your services, making sure that you have customer satisfaction, attracting and retaining those employees, and having a lot of fun. And when you go into scaling your company, this is something that's completely out of your realm. And a lot of us don't have the bandwidth or resources that we need to actually make that happen. But I'm going to tell you what, you have the same exact momentum and energy as that person that's climbing the mountain. Because in growing and scaling your business, it is like climbing a mountain. And you're going to climb it now, and you're going to get to that threshold. You're going to put that flag in. You're going to have all of the different teams and guides that you have, and you're going to feel good, and then hopefully you do it again. You know, hopefully we'll get to another point you do it again. So when I'm talking about leveraging them, I'm actually going to say that we have 3 different steps. Let's go to the next slide. The first step is actually preparing for the journey. And when I say prepare for the journey, it's the growth mindset. So when you're going into growing your business and you're thinking state incentives, you can't be thinking, oh, I have to talk to the government. Oh, sounds like paperwork. You can't be thinking that. That's like the mountain climber who puts his boots and shoes on and gets that cool, big, fluffy jacket and says, why in the heck am I doing this? You know, it's going to be cold. You know, it's going to be hard. No, no, no. You have to have that excitement. You have to have that growth mindset, and you have to be prepared for what you're going to go into. You just know that this is going to be it, but the outcome of what you're doing is going to far exceed that challenge that you're going to have. So when I talk about growth mindset, this isn't just saying that, oh, my numbers are telling me I need to grow, or you know what, I've got more demand for a product, and oh, geez, I have to look at real estate. This is, oh my gosh, what do I have to become, or what do I need, and what can I gain by doing this, and how do I get to that next level? I'm going to tell you what, the Jeff Bezos of the world and the Richard Bransons of the world always have a growth mindset. They are forward thinking. They're not thinking about the pandemic. They're not thinking about, you know, the challenges. They're thinking about that end goal, and that's a true growth mindset. So I'm going to challenge you today that when you start this journey, to prepare for that journey and get that growth mindset. Then we're going to move into, once you have that growth mindset, we're going to move to that next level, which is experience your vision. I want you to experience this. So before you're talking to your economic development professionals, or you're calling up your state to find out that state incentive package, have that vision in your head. And I'm talking the grandest vision you can think of, because I'm going to venture a guess that what resources come to you, your vision can actually even get bigger. So experience it. When you're talking to your architects and when you're talking to, you know, the plan setters, I want you to be able to experience your vision. What does it look like? What does when you're sitting in your location, what does the sunshine coming through the windows feel like? You know, you want to be thinking about that. What is the atmosphere or the energy level of the employees that are working from you or working remotely? You know, and when you're getting on virtually with them, what do you want that energy to be, and how are they servicing your customers? So experience that vision. You know, this sounds like this is just like a big motivational pep talk, you know, talking about climbing a mountain in the middle of the day. What in the heck is she talking about? But I'm going to tell you what, time and time again, when companies come to me and they're looking at state incentive packages, if they don't have this mindset or these visions, they're not going to take advantage of as many of the resources as they can out there. So you got to have that. You want to have the preparation with that growth mindset, and then you want to have that experienced vision. I just talked to a new company yesterday. It's a film production company, and they are on the East Coast, and they're looking to grow. And they came to me and said, oh my gosh, I got these 2 new boutique streaming channels. I'm going to do this crime channel, and I've got this, the other one was kind of a Christian-based channel. It's like kind of 2 opposites of the ends there, but they do these boutique streaming networks. And yeah, we need to hire 55 people very soon. And he was like really excited about it. And then he filled out an actual growth survey or a request for information, and he put down he wanted to hire 10 people. And I went, well, what is it? Do you need 55 people or do you need 10 people? He's like, well, I need to be realistic. I said, but when you're talking about state incentives, you got to show your whole vision. You got to tell them and be excited and experience that vision at 55 people. And because at that point, our powerhouse partners, those economic development professionals are going to say, this is what we have available to make that happen. You know, these are the workforce training grants. These are the resources. These are the locations that you can find. So with that vision, experience it, see it, and move forward with it. From there, we're going to move on just to the next slide, and it's going to be allow. This is, I can't say this enough, that once you experience it, you've got to allow it to happen. You've got to be prepared to be a leader and on a journey of change. I'm kind of a quasi-science geek. From my background, and there's in chemistry there's enthalpy, which is a rate of change. So for like an ice cube to change to a vapor, there is that curve that moves up, and to change states it takes an enormous amount of energy, and I really think that all of us experience that in life. But once a lot of people experience change, they resist and they close up and they shut down and they doubt. You have to allow for growth to happen. So it's the same kind of with my little production company. When you're talking about your growth, be prepared to tell them what your vision is. I know when Elon Musk went out there, and I had just seen a documentary on him, and he was talking about SpaceX, people laughed at him. They were like, this isn't going to go anywhere. He didn't care. He is a forward thinker, and I believe that you guys are too, because you've already taken the first step. You're spending time here on Select Chicago's forum. You're looking at your options for growth. So I'm going to just tell you, allow for mistakes to happen. Get outside guidance. Get the resources. Take advantage of their connections, and always focus towards the positives. So those are like the 3 kind of motivators. The next 3 are easy in leveraging growth. Let's see, how are we doing on time? We're actually moving very well. So in that is that once we've got this, we've got our vision, and you're ready to allow, we're focused on the positive, we're halfway up that mountain already. We've got our guides, where this is no longer a struggle. We're moving up Mount Everest here, and we've got like the GQ tent, kind of one of those magic Harry Potter tents that, you know, you go inside and it's like luxury and chefs are cooking for you. We're going up the mountain, and that's what this journey can be like when you are expanding your business and you're using the resources that are available and you're looking at your options. So once you've got that, now you want to identify. So now you put all of that. That's where you take your story and you make sure that you're concise and you tell your story to everybody on your team. So start at the top is what I recommend, to the highest level that you can get. Go to the states that you're interested in, tell them your story, get their information, get their connections, get the introductions to your local municipalities. You know, we're talking state incentive packages here. State incentive packages, I kind of call them shiny objects. They're powerhouses and they're shiny, and they are the big with the job creation credits, but it's really at the municipal level that a lot of magic happens. I mean, that's where you're going to be when you're into the actual making decisions phase, and you're looking at a new lease and signing that lease, or you're about to build and you need permits, or you need relocation assistance. There's an entire second round that's going to open up, and you need to know what those resources are. You need to be in that identify stage so that you can take, as you're starting this journey, you can put them all side by side and weigh them out and see what makes a sense for your company and strategize when you're going to take advantage of them. You know, workforce development grants, they can get set up. Sometimes they follow you, so you have to work with them because you can set those up for some of your existing employees now. Other things you're going to wait until you start hiring. But you're going to want to look at that and then find out what those options are. So identify. Knowledge is power. It's going to be going up that mountain of Mount Everest, you're going to need to know which course you want to take. There's many ways up that mountain. So you're going to want to know what course you're going to take so that you're prepared for it and you can make the decisions that are going to make it an unbelievable journey. Oh, I got to take a breath here. I'm having fun. This is so great to kind of be out. I'm moving through very quickly. So after we identify, connect. I've said it many, many times in this, is that you're going to connect with your powerhouses. So get in line with those local municipal partners. Get the introductions from a state level. Ask your real estate professionals, if nothing else, for those introductions. And come to them with your story. I absolutely love this quote. But the most important, I believe this was from Tom Ford, the most important things in life are the connections you make with others. And more in this time right now, we're finding unique ways to connect. There's there's tools that are out there to connect. That Blackbird had a great tool to connect for you guys to visualize different spaces in 3D. My system, EnJen Connects, allows you to tell your story to multiple economic development partners. There are resources out there that you can connect. We're online, things are efficient. If you're a foreign company coming in and looking at this Midwest region, I'm going to tell you what, I work across the country, but I am from this local area, and this region is rocking. I get to peek out a bit of a window in the background there, and the fall colors are absolutely gorgeous right now. We're in a city center that is just ripe with redevelopment on it. So you want to get to know these, but you're not going to be able to know those without those connections. You're not going to be able to see those insights without being able to talk to your economic development partners. So I really challenge you to, find somebody. You're going to leverage growth by finding somebody to help you navigate this process. The last section of this is grow. We're going up the mountain. We're almost elevating. I almost feel like I've got an escalator taking us up Mount Everest. Do you feel it with me? Are you on my journey with me? We are literally going up the mountain here. We've got the flags coming out. We're going to get that photo, and we're actually breathing easy because our growth and expansion is doing absolutely fabulous. We've made the connections. We know our options. We know the route. We prepared. We maintained the energy through all of the challenges because we knew this was going to be a rewarding journey. So this is what your growth is going to be like when you're expanding your company. You're going to expand it now. I've had small companies. One of my first companies that when I started in this particular arena, he was literally started out of his garage. He was an injection molding company. When I came to visit his office, I was in a subdivision thinking I'm really in the wrong spot. And I pulled up to the address, and just as I pulled in, the garage door opened, and there was this massive injection molding machine taking up the entire garage. And his employees were his father-in-law, his wife, and his teenage son. And I tell you this because they actually did leverage incentives for their growth. They had a phenomenal foundation, but they got into a facility, and I'm happy to tell you they have now a 10,000 square foot facility I believe in the Kenosha region, which is the part of SelectChicago, and they are looking at their second and third locations within the Midwest region here now. So it can happen. My chemical packaging company, they started their company out of the back of a semi-trailer. They would repackage out of the back. These are the stories, and I'm sharing them with you because, we get talking a lot about, the logistics of where we're at now, but every one of you has a vision for growth. And when you're talking to state incentive packages, they are just a tool that you can use to leverage that growth. And I'm going to tell you, you can do it at any stage. So you don't have to be. We have to kind of take that. When we're talking about state incentive packages and what they look like, I want you to know that any size company should be looking at it. You should be telling your story because every one of us are in the seat that Elon Musk and Bezos and all of the, the big names of the world that they sat before. So I'm really excited to be part of this, and obviously a little bit passionate about what I do. And I just kind of want to say, grow. It's just really take a look at that. So I don't know how this works. I know that we're going to wrap it up. I'm kind of finishing a little early. I mentioned to you, I do have, links that we can provide. That there is a download of pretty much my talk today, but it's a PDF, and then contact information. I can keep talking if we want to talk about anything else, but other than that, I'm going to maybe hand it back over to Mike and see if he has any closing thoughts.
No, this is
Yeah.
great. And Jen, I'm just miking up
Yeah.
because right now I just want to make sure audio's good. Good, I don't need to be on camera. I'll stand over here. 6 feet. But a lot of the questions that we get when people are going through this process is businesses want to move fast. The entitlement process tends to be slow.
Yes,
So different states have different flavors.
correct.
Kind of give our audience a little bit of an understanding of a time window.
Very good, because it is varying, and that is, and I probably didn't put a lot on that, but really, when you are looking, I said, do the job creation tax credits, those state entitlements first. They have to be done first because you have to have them secured. Typically, what I've seen is anywhere from the fastest I ever seen, believe it or not, was 2 weeks. It was actually, that is not the norm. You're literally looking at 8 to 12 weeks, and that's if you have your ducks in a row. So when you're going to go through that process, they have certain committees that meet at certain time frames, so you could ask them, what is their calendar for approval? I think here in Illinois, they do it every Thursday. Wisconsin does it on a month-to-month window, so you really want to plan that in the get-go. And it's just, again, one of those things, that's why we say, if you're starting to think about growth, you're starting to create jobs or thinking to create jobs, that's when you want to talk about state entitlements. That's when you want to tell them your story, because it will vary from state to state. And why would you want to pass up potentially some huge credits that, could really offset taxes for a long time to come and keep that cash flow growing so you can continue to grow?
Yeah, and it builds too. I mean, we were talking with JLL a little bit earlier today. We were talking with local municipalities this morning, and you opened up a really good avenue where so much of the earth moves and the entitlement happens at the local level.
Yes.
And when you're negotiating for new incentives or coming in,
Correct.
in my day job,
Yes.
some of the things that we do comes into for a municipality to credit out building permits. Like, wow, that's seemingly such a small amount. But when it's 3% of $1 million, that winds up being 30,000.
yeah.
And so an extra for a $10 million project, that's $300,000 in incentive, or basically in dollars that can actually help grow that project. The other piece too comes into understanding all the credits.
Yes.
And you have the training credits, you have the tax incentive credits, and each place does it a little bit differently. And what you bring to the table here, and as you and I have talked about, we work with about 60 to 80 different municipalities all throughout this 300 kilometers region from O'Hare Airport. They don't really get to understand what that window looks like in Georgia, which is one of your favorite sites that you work with, and some of the other states, and what areas are doing well. What are some of the innovative things that some of the people in the Midwest should be trying to emulate what you're seeing abroad?
Actually, 2 parts to that. Let me kind of expound a little bit on the fact of the fact that this area, their local municipalities, really they're a powerhouse. So another company that I had was a metal stamping company. And you want to talk about the expedition of building. So they actually started their company, and have been in business for over 50-something years. They needed to do an expansion, so they were adding a 40,000 square foot expansion to their building. The permits came up to about $40,000, and it was a cost factor that they had not planned for, and they were having trouble getting it. Because they went through this process and they partnered with both the state and local economic development agencies, they got those permits cut in half. They actually, just by having a few conversations. Beyond that, when I'm talking hidden powers and I'm talking opening that suit and the superhero comes out, so this particular company, they got the permits rolling, they started construction, and they went in to work with the fire inspector, which this company elected because they're metal stamping, right? So everything's metal in there. So they actually put firewalls in place per code that they needed by the local ordinances. But the owner, on occasion, ran his facility, he'd run his production lines while he slept. And he had a small little area of the new development that he was going to have boxes for shipping. And from that shipping, he was like, I want to sleep at night. So he elected, in addition to his firewalls, to put a sprinkler system in. Well, the normal ordinance said for the square footage of his building, he was going to need a 90-minute tank. So a tank that held 90 minutes of water to run these sprinklers in case of a fire. The fees were astronomical. He's like, it doesn't make sense to me as a business owner because I've already put the firewalls in. So we literally had our economic development professionals get a team together. They got the mayor, they got the fire chief, they brought in the county. They had a discussion, and what they discovered is that within an 8-mile radius, there were 5 fire stations that all could get there within 45 minutes. So what they did is they made a special exception to the ordinance and allowed this company to put in a 45-minute tank, saved the company $50,000. You want to talk about the power of municipalities and connections? I mean, that is huge. So that is just something that you really want to think about. I can't even quantify what resources are available through our local municipalities. And that's in here. You're talking about some things outside of here. And that's in your Select Chicago region that happened. So, I mean, that was a fantastic story. Things that I'm seeing in other areas is definitely going to vary. I have in Texas, it's such a big state. Pennsylvania is another state that they tend to run it more. The state's a little bit more hands-off on it, where the local municipalities are going to be the ones that come in with the job creation tax credits, or they'll do grants for hiring purposes. So they're going to go through and find those powers. So as far as something that you guys are doing or that outside that's doing, that you guys could learn from, our areas around here are huge powerhouses. What I would honestly say, the best thing that you could do is to really figure out a way to connect with business owners more, to find out their visions. And that's just across the board. I mean, I really don't know that anything, I may have to get back to you on that, Michael, and we'll kind of put something together on that, because I'm trying to think. I deal a lot with the state level, but you guys really are strong. The Select Chicago region, the municipalities here, I'm going to give you, if we have any of you on board today, you really are. You're superpowers. You have superpowers to me.
Yeah, and that's great, because I have been getting texts from our municipal stakeholders while we were going on with this, because this is very important pieces, because so many businesses, then they're looking to come to an area, don't understand the process, the timeline, and also the long-term benefits of selecting a place and working with the municipality on the way in. Sometimes when we're hearing from site selections, they want this stuff solved in 5 days, and the answer is, if that's your time frame, you're leaving so many chips on the table, because it's not going to be apples to apples across.
Yeah.
I mean, when somebody goes through your process, walk a little bit. I mean, we have time for basically have somebody walk through what that process is from an intake with your program, because that's an important piece, because it allows you to do as much apples to apples comparison as you can before you get into the oranges and the lemons.
Yes, thank you for that, and that is really my biggest passion, is that, I'm looking out there, and when you see I had referenced early on that we have literally less than 1% of businesses in America are 500 employees and above. You know, and so those companies out there are the typical ones that have full teams that come in and evaluate incentives very early on. So before they're talking to their real estate department, they already know all of their options. And this process of really sharing what, you know, we could say is an RFI, a request for information, you know, going in and filling out a survey and giving the details, you know, talking about where your company is at now as far as to how many full-time employees you have. Typically, that is the buzzword. We want to know about the seasonal or the part-time, but full-time employees is really speaking the language of state incentives or local incentives. You want to talk about who you want to hire, the types of position, what are you paying them, what are those types of wages. You're going to want to talk about your training, R&D, new product or processes, who are your clients, your supply chain, and then you want to talk about that vision that we talked about. So you really want to be able to share the capital expenditures that you're going to be making into locations. What are you thinking? Are you considering a lease? But if you have resources that come into you that free up, I didn't even talk about government lending. I mean, that's another option that comes to you guys. But if you have some of these options, would you think about buying a space, you know, and maybe renovating it? You know, that was in a great conversation earlier that there's really going to be, they're projecting in the next 5 to 10 years is being able to take spaces and renovate them and repurpose them. So when you're going through that, you want to be able to tell that story. And I'd say do this before you talk to your site selection professionals. And I'm not here to alienate site selection professionals. I love you dearly, and I think our tool could actually enhance, well, actually it does enhance what you do for your clients. But the traditional route of business expansion typically is you're either a company and you're going about your daily business and you think, wow, we're getting kind of tight quarters here. I have new products, you know, to make. I have new demands. I've been doing some R&D. You know what? There's a space next door. I'm just going to lease it out. And with no bandwidth, that's what you're thinking, right? Because you're not looking at, wow, I started this company because it was in my backyard, or in the truck, you know, the trailer, or in my garage, or, you know, whatever it was. You didn't look at the fact of the demographics of where your talent pool is, who you need to hire and who you want to attract. You didn't look at the demographics of the logistics of where you're shipping, you know, your company. You didn't look at all of that. You started your business on an idea and you grew it from there. So now you may find yourself when you're expanding that you don't have everything that you're here. And I'm going to challenge you, instead of going straight to your site selection professionals, is to fill out a growth survey. Most of our municipalities, even if you're not using EnJen Connects, the state and municipalities have these surveys that they'll fill you out. I just try to bring them all together and aggregate them so I can get that information to them, because then they can do their magic, right? But you want to fill out those surveys because you want to know the nuances first. I just worked with a company that is actually going to be considering, they're actually out in Montana right now. They're considering the West Coast, but they've also said that they're going to look at the Midwest. So this is a new lead. I've got a brand new lead of a R&D company that is creating a medical bottle that's 100% biodegradable, like a pill bottle, you know, so obviously landfill. And they've got some venture capital behind them. They've got 12 employees now. They're anticipating being up to 100 employees within the next 2 years. And they went through this process and they were utterly shocked. I sat and watched the owner of the company with the mouth down, because we ended up with this spreadsheet, because we took the story to a few different areas and they came in and we went through the gamut and we found some options that said, well, geez, you're looking at 100 employees. Well, if you're looking at this much investment, you now had another whole set of potential benefits that you can take advantage of within grants, within tax credits, within training. They didn't even know they were eligible for R&D credits. Federal R&D credits. They didn't know that. It was introduced to them. So they looked at that and they literally had to stop and go back to the drawing board. because now there is so many other nuances that are available. And if you're doing kind of what Michael was saying, and it happens a lot, that you were that company owner that says, no, path of least resistance is just get the building next door, you're gonna leave a lot of money on the table. You're gonna be going up that mountain, but it's not gonna be Mount Everest. You're gonna be going up like Wilmot Mountain, which is the little tiny ski hill in the Midwest. We don't have mountains in the Midwest if you're from a foreign country. But you're gonna be going up that, and it's gonna be even more difficult of a challenge, because you're on your own with your own set of ideas, and you don't know what's available out there. And by the time that you get introduced to those potential resources, usually it's too late. So there are those types of nuances. So going through that process and filling that out and getting it, you're going to actually receive from states as well as local municipalities. Once we start to talk about geographies, you will actually see all of the different programs with the timetables, with any types of application processes. You're going to see all of those nuances. So that's really where it opens up. I really can't say it enough. I had a food manufacturing company, and it was kind of neat because the owner was actually a former CMO of Kraft Foods. But he retired and he decided to start this small organic food company. And they were looking at potentials of where they should move. Came to me and said, wow, I knew these were available for Kraft Foods, but I didn't think of my small company. I've only been in business a year and a half. And we ended up finding him, this is incredible. His partner says, her famous line is, it feels like $500,000 dropped out the sky. I opened my door and it was there. They found that they were able to locate a business within a kids zone, which was like an opportunity zone, and they had no problems with that. It fit their demographics, and because of that, they're getting a $100,000 per year saleable tax credit for job creation and their capital investment. So they've committed to creating a certain amount of jobs. What they also said when we did an interview with him is that they, and he knew this because he came from big business, he knew that he ended up securing a government loan through the local municipality that was a gap lending that helped him secure the equipment and the facility that they needed to get into production. And he goes, I would never have had this access to capital. I just would not have been able to get this with the traditional lending at a bank. So those are just kind of the nuances that literally, time and again, I could go on with these stories all day.
And I'd love you to, but we're out
Yes,
of time.
okay.
So I know when I bring you back next time, we're going to book an hour and a half, because an hour was
go.
just not long enough.
Yes, we'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I want to thank you very much for coming out today.
Yes.
It's great to have you down in our Waukegan studio, and we will have your contact information in the show notes.
Wonderful.
And next week we will be getting these up on live and on YouTube. So we're going to
Excellent.
say goodbye to everybody on the camera, and then we're about
Goodbye.
5 minutes late going to our next session. So we'll see you in 5 minutes, guys.